Remember the thrill of blowing into an NES cartridge, or that unmistakable beep from an arcade cabinet booting up? Retro games aren't just games, they're a time capsule. From the arcade classics to early console hits, these games have shaped generations and still capture our hearts today. But what made retro games so special? In this video, we're going to dive deep into the elements that gave these games their unique magic and why they continue to resonate even in our ultra-modern, high-def gaming world. Retro games are often described as simple, but that simplicity is part of what made them so special. Many early games were designed around a core mechanic that was easy to pick up but hard to master. For instance, Tetris had players arranging blocks to form lines. Simple? Yes. But reaching higher levels required planning and quick reflexes. Pac-Man's objective was straightforward: eat all the pellets without getting caught. Yet, the tension and strategy increased as you navigated the maze with each level. The limitations of early hardware and software meant that developers had to focus on core gameplay mechanics. They couldn't rely on flashy graphics or complex storytelling to hold the player's attention. Instead, they had to create gameplay that was inherently engaging. This simplicity allowed players of all ages and skill levels to jump in without tutorials or complex controls. Without long tutorials, players could simply hit start and figure things out as they went. Retro games were inherently accessible because their core mechanics were universal. Games like Super Mario Bros. Offered a seamless, no-frills introduction that even a first-time player could understand. Technical limitations played a huge role in shaping the experience of retro games. Developers couldn't rely on lifelike graphics or complex physics engines, so they had to get creative in other ways. Early games used pixel art and chiptune music to create immersive experiences. Think of the eerie minimalism in Metroid, or the iconic music from The Legend of Zelda. With limited color palettes, developers learned to use contrast effectively, creating memorable characters and vibrant worlds with just a few pixels. Early consoles had limited memory and processing power, meaning that developers had to make every frame count. This led to iconic innovations, such as Super Mario Bros. Side-scrolling action or Donkey Kong's jump mechanics. The creativity born from these limitations forced developers to push the hardware to its limits, creating experiences that felt magical despite being technologically simple. Retro games weren't just a solo experience, they were a social phenomenon that brought people together in arcades, living rooms, and schoolyards. The 1980s saw an arcade boom, where games like Space Invaders, Galaga, and Street Fighter turned local arcades into community hubs. These places were alive with the sounds of machines, coins dropping, and people cheering or groaning as they played. Multiplayer games fostered friendly competition. In games like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, high scores became the ultimate bragging rights, creating an environment where players pushed each other to get better. When gaming consoles like the NES and SNES entered the household, video gaming became a family affair. Super Mario Bros. And Duck Hunt were games you played with your siblings, cousins, or even parents, creating shared memories. The Game Boy introduced portable gaming, letting kids play on the go and trade Pokémon or challenge each other on the playground. These moments helped establish gaming as a communal experience that transcended screens. Gaming wasn't bound by geography or language. Even if someone couldn't read the instructions, they could pick up the basics just by playing. This universality made retro games especially memorable because they allowed people worldwide to connect through a shared experience. Retro games often had limited storytelling, but that didn't stop them from creating some of the most iconic characters and narratives in gaming history. Mario, Link, Sonic, and Mega Man are characters that not only defined their games but became cultural icons. With only a few lines of dialogue or a simple premise, players were given just enough to project their imaginations onto these characters. Designers created memorable silhouettes and color schemes for these characters to make them instantly recognizable. Mario's red cap, Sonic's blue quills, and Link's green tunic became synonymous with their games. Games like The Legend of Zelda presented players with a hero, a quest, and a mysterious world to explore, encouraging them to imagine the story between the gameplay. With early RPGs like Final Fantasy, players became emotionally invested in characters' fates even though the stories were often basic due to limited storage. This storytelling approach sparked players' imaginations, allowing them to feel a deeper connection to the game world. These characters and worlds remained special because they were established with universal, archetypal qualities that could evolve over time. While today's games may offer more complex stories, the essence of these characters and the nostalgia they bring continue to hold a timeless appeal. The music and art of retro games are inseparable from their identities. From the catchy tunes to iconic pixel art, these games achieved a unique style that continues to inspire modern gaming. Composers like Koji Kondo, of Mario and Zelda fame, created some of the most iconic themes in gaming history. The music needed to loop but remained catchy, ensuring players wouldn't tire of hearing it. Who can forget the Mario theme or Sonic's Green Hill Zone? The limitations of the sound chips on these consoles forced composers to innovate, often layering sound effects to create melodies that have a timeless appeal. Limited by hardware, early game developers embraced pixel art, turning constraints into a style. Pixel art required artists to be precise, using small sprites and colors to convey emotion, personality, and even action. Today, pixel art is often used in modern indie games as a tribute to retro games, as it evokes a sense of nostalgia and simplicity. Retro games proved that you didn't need HD graphics to immerse players. The music and art created a mood that players still recall fondly, demonstrating that a strong artistic style could be just as immersive as realistic graphics. Despite all the advancements in technology, the influence of retro games is undeniable. Many modern games still pay homage to the classics, and the indie gaming scene is especially drawn to retro aesthetics and gameplay. Many indie developers draw direct inspiration from retro games. Titles like Shovel Knight and Celeste echo the 8-bit and 16-bit eras in terms of art style, mechanics, and even difficulty. These games remind players of the importance of tight gameplay and thoughtful level design. The roguelike genre, inspired by the game Rogue from 1980, is a staple in indie and mainstream gaming today. It shows how retro design principles can create timeless gameplay experiences. The resurgence of retro gaming consoles like the NES and SNES Classic Editions and online game collections on services like Nintendo Switch Online demonstrate that players still crave these experiences. Nostalgia plays a huge role in retro gaming's popularity. People revisit these games to relive fond memories, share them with new generations, and experience the simpler, challenging gameplay they grew up with. Ultimately, retro games have become more than just entertainment. They're part of our cultural history, capturing a unique time when gaming was still new and developers were trailblazers experimenting with this medium. Retro games remind us of a time when imagination and innovation trumped photorealism and complex graphics. Retro games were more than just pixels and chiptune melodies. They were experiences that transcended their time. They were a perfect blend of creativity, technical limitations, and raw gameplay that created unforgettable memories for millions. Even though gaming technology has evolved, the magic of retro games endures. From the simple yet challenging gameplay to the communities that formed around high scores and couch co-op, retro games left a lasting impact on the gaming industry and on our hearts. See you next time.